All right, what's up? I've seen a lot of these videos where people are using these AI tools like OpenClaw and whatnot. They're basically using them to either do some research or organize their folders or spam the shit out of people. That's pretty much what I've seen. I wanted to try and use AI to do actual work that I do every day. So I've spent the last week building little skills within Claude Cowork, which I'll show you in this video, that have more or less replaced the first half of every day for me, which is spent doing accounting, bookkeeping, and admin at the computer. So this video is going to show you exactly what my setup is, how I set it up, what results I'm getting, and also some of the downsides, because I'm not like spruiking this product. It's not perfect by any means. There's things that need to be improved, and I'll go through some of those. I've also written all of this out as a blog post with probably a lot more detail. If you go to dannorris.me, you'll see the blog post up there. I just spewed it all out last night. It was like a 4,000 word post I wrote in an hour and a half. That's how like into it I am at the moment, because like this week I've just been going hard at it, and it's pretty like exciting and scary, to be honest. Anyway, let's get into it. Claude skills. I don't know what that thing's doing. All right. So over on the right hand side here, right? This is the Claude window. So I mean, if you're familiar with ChatGPT, you will be used to this kind of interface here. That's where you chat. Code is an app from Claude, which is amazing at building applications. I've been using that as well to code some projects I've been working on. Cowork is a beta product, which means it's not fully ready yet. It's buggy. It's not perfect, but it's basically the next step in these AIs is to, once they perfected code, which they have already, it's mind blowing what they can do with code. No one should be writing code anymore. It's crazy. They're moving on to normal knowledge work, and they're going to take that over as well. I mean, what this can do now already as a beta product after a few weeks of being launched is scary. Anyway, so in this window here, this is how I tell it to do anything. So I've just given it an opening prompt to get the browser ready, get some permissions ready, and I'm about to give it some skills to do. I'm just going to read what it says here. For logging into sites, I can't enter passwords. Yeah, so I've got my password saved. It'll use my saved passwords. It just gives you some security reminders saying that it can't do certain things. So I've given this skill four main skills at the moment I've got. So we've got processing online orders, which is one skill. MYOB transactions, so going into MYOB and reconciling transactions that come in every day. We get probably 20 to 30, 40 transactions that come in every day that need to be reconciled. It's just a manual job. You have to know the business to do it. You have to know MYOB. You have to understand bookkeeping principles, accounting principles. It's not the world's hardest job. You can train a human how to do it, but it's not like super basic admin. The other one is managing emails, and a lot of that is to do with, we run two cafes. We have a coffee roasting and wholesale cafe business. So we have two cafes, and we supply wholesale cafe supplies and coffee to other cafes as well. Sorry, that was a mouthful. Shouldn't be that hard. So anyway, the emails is a lot of, every day we get an email from the bakery with all the bread we ordered for that day, from the milk supplier, from wholesale suppliers for powders and alternative milks and syrups. All that kind of stuff has to go into MYOB. There's integrations here and there that you can use. They never really work properly, and you kind of need to have a human brain that understands everything to be able to do this. But I've got the AI doing, I would say, 80 to 85% of the first half of my day, every day of the week, to the point where I've gotten to the end of the week, in the first week of doing this, while I've been training it the whole time. And as of Friday last night, we have no emails, we have no MYOB reconciliations to do. All of them are done. And that's only the first week when most of my time is spent training the agent, not just sitting back and watching it work. So, okay, in the interest of keeping this as short as I think I can. So there's no emails this morning. That's because we did all this yesterday, so I can't show you that at the moment. Maybe I can manufacture one or something. But let's just try the MYOB reconciliation skill. So I haven't looked at these transactions. I can see, okay, we've got 21 unallocated transactions that have come in. I don't know what's in there. There might be stuff that I haven't trained it how to handle yet. There's a lot of stuff that comes into MYOB, and I've only trained it how to handle really common stuff, and only like 4 or 5 days worth of stuff that I've seen. So it'll be an ongoing process training these models. So yeah, maybe I'll start with exactly what it does, and I'll show you in real time, and then if I have time, I'll show you how it works and how I've set it up. Otherwise, go to dannorris.me, and I've got it all up there. So okay, let's go So I'm just saying commence MyOb reconciliation. So one of the downsides is it's not very fast. And that's not a huge issue in its own. Like if it was an employee and it was slow, you'd be worried because you're paying it by the hour, but you're not paying these things by the hour, you're paying by the token. So the speed is not necessarily a problem unless you've got some other constraints. And we have a bit of a constraint where we need the orders done by 12 o'clock. So I need to kind of manage, okay, do I get it doing MyOb reconciliations or do I get it doing orders? Or I'm going to allow all browser actions. The permissions are a little bit here and there. Like sometimes I'll ask you permission, sometimes I won't. But yeah, so there is a bit of a time constraint in our particular business. I want the orders done by 12 o'clock. So I need to commence processing orders during the day and kind of monitor that as it goes. If it gets stuck, I need to kind of help it figure it out. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time. And then we do the MyOb reconciliations later in the day. So yeah, the slowness is only annoying if you can't manage it, but it is slow. So, okay, so what it's doing now, so the super cool thing about this is, okay, picture you've got an employee and you're like, okay, can you please reconcile my MyOb transactions? You're either having to constantly talk to that person or they just go off and do it and come back when it's done and ideally show you exactly what was done until you trust them enough to do it themselves. With the AI, who I call Rosie, you can see her think. So I don't have to sit here and monitor every single thing that's going on. I can see, you can't see the cursor move, but you can see what's happening in the browser. Hopefully you can see she's navigated to, I assume, click on the MyOb transactions. It's a little slow. That's not her, that's just MyOb. So now it's showing, showing these unmatched transactions, 21 of them. And I can see over the right-hand side as she's thinking, I don't have to wait till she's done the task and tell her she's done it wrong. I can see what she's thinking. So she's saying, okay, I can see 21 unallocated transactions, page is loading. So she's noticed the page is a little bit slow. That's MyOb sucks. So the bank transactions page is loaded. I can see not matched 21 is already selected. So yeah, so she knows where to go. By the way, one of the craziest things about, there's a few crazy things about using these as AIs. One is like, you can't think about these things like you would think about a normal computer program where you give it rules and it follows those rules. Like this thing has agency. It does what it thinks it should do. It will follow. I hesitate to even use the word follow. It will consider the skill training that you give it like an employee would, and it will utilize that, but then it will do what it thinks it should do. It's kind of eerie. It's eerily similar to a human. So that's how you got to think about it. You got to kind of think about it like this is an employee. All right, so I can see what it's thinking. I can see several transactions. Let me continue scrolling. So she's looking at them all now. The reason there's 21 transactions on a Saturday is because a lot of them are payroll transactions. And I've built into her training that she has to look at these because I don't want her going through and just saying, oh, MyOb has suggested this could be a suitable transaction to reconcile against, because MyOb and accounting software are built for everybody. They don't understand my business. They get this wrong all the time. Their suggestions can be considered. If you know bookkeeping and know MyOb or Xero, you will know when it auto suggests something, some of the time it's very good. Xero, I think, is better than MyOb. I haven't used it for quite a while, but Xero, I think, is better than MyOb. But both of them are not very smart, at least not yet. And even if they were, you would really, I don't think accounting software would ever really do this for you because this is kind of risky. If you don't build this right, your accounts are going to be off. So you've got to build this, in a way where you're comfortable with the level of autonomy that this thing has. So let's have a look. And I'm just covering up the details of those transactions now because they're employees. It's a little bit sensitive information. If it was just normal suppliers, I'd leave that so you could see the whole thing. All right. So we have a whole bunch of things that this agent Rosie does. Not just employee transactions. It will also do things like if there's a invoice in there from Woolworths or Bidfood or one of our suppliers, it will not just look for the bill. It will go into the email and find the purchase and log into Woolworths and download the bill and forward it to MyOb and then reconcile the bill. Like this is like an employee. I can't emphasize that enough. This is not just like some basic computer program. All right. But she goes through this stuff in an order. So I've got a skill which has got all of this information that I've fed it over the last week. You can actually look at this file. It's quite interesting. The one for this particular skill, is 68 pages long. And that's not 68 pages I've written. That's kind of me saying, okay, we've got a tool called MyOb. If a transaction goes in there for an employee, can you please allocate it this way? And then it will write its own process, very detailed, and add it to that file. By the end of the week, this file was 68 pages long. So that's the knowledge that this thing has that it builds in and looks at before it commences every task. So you can see here, okay, she's hovering over this transaction for Geordie. So we've got, Geordie's my son, so I feel like this is not that sensitive. He just does a small amount of work for us packing coffee. His wage has gone through. She has then seen that I've previously said, okay, Geordie works for us. If it comes through and it exactly matches his wage, then I know I've put that through in payroll the day before. By the way, I did payroll manually last night. There's no reason she can't do payroll. Everything I do, logging into a system that I built myself with AI to manage staff shifts, and logging into MyOb and logging into our bank and doing that whole thing, 100% she could do. I didn't want her doing that in the first week. I'm a little scared to get her like starting paying people and shit like that. So I did it last night. But the result is MyOb brings the bank reconciliation in the next day. Okay, so as she goes through all of these employees, I'll pause the video for a little bit so she can go through all of those, and then we'll get onto an example that is not employee-related transaction. Okay, we are back. So you can see, I've just refreshed this. It's been 5 or 6 minutes. You can see here, not match 10. So she's gone through, she's done all the employees, and now she's doing other stuff in here. I'll just open up the Claude window. So make that a bit smaller. So, okay, so she's just talking through what she's doing. She's seen there's a Woolworths transaction. She's got a rule on how to process Woolworths transactions. She's made a mistake here. You can see, and this is the other wacky thing about these things is like she will make a mistake like a human and then realize she's made a mistake and then go back and fix it. So you can see I accidentally navigated to the dashboard. That actually might have been me because I went back to refresh so you could see what was left there, and she's noticed that's happened. All right, so Woolworths, one of the suggestions is when we get a bill come in from Woolworths, check if there's a bill in there to reconcile with where the dollar value is the same and the date is similar, then reconcile it automatically, because she goes into the email and creates these bills herself. So there's a good chance this bill exists already and MyOb will find it. Let me have a look what it's showing here. So 96. This actually is could be quite a tricky one. So let's look and see what happens here. She hasn't found it yet. So yeah, here we go. So oh wow. Okay, so what she's doing now is realizing that this Woolworths transaction is going to be a tricky one. What she's going to have to do is go to the email, search for the bill, log into Woolworths and find the bill. What she's doing instead is moving on to an easy one. This is what I mean. This is not a normal computer. This is like working with a person. She's going to knock over the easy ones first and then come back to the tricky one. So what she's doing is she's got a bunch of deposits in there. Some are from customers. Some are transfers from Square, which we use in the cafes. Some are payments for specific invoices that she knows she's got a bill for. So that'll be easier. Okay, so she's gone through. She's seen the rule that applies to this transaction, which is basically if they mention the exact invoice number, I'll show you. If they mention the exact invoice number and it matches the invoice that MyOb automatically applied it to, and the dollar value is exactly the same, because MyOb will sometimes suggest an invoice that isn't the same number, which is incredibly dumb, but this is a difference between shitty software and very smart AI. Then if all of that's true, then she ticks that off as reconciled. So she's gone and done that. That one's done. She's moving on to the next one. So this is another customer. Let's have a look if the same rule applies. So, okay, now this is another example of I've trained her. Okay, maybe the customer, when they paid us, didn't mention the invoice number, but we can see from the transaction who the customer is. So in this case, you can see Southport Bowls, and I tell them, okay, we need to know who the customer is, but you also need to make sure you've got an invoice from around that time for an identical dollar value. Otherwise, I need to step in and have a figure out what's going on here. But in this case, she should figure out that this customer is Southport Bowls. MyOb has chosen it automatically, and therefore she can just mark that as complete. By the way, I don't sit here and watch her do this now, even after only 3 or 4 days. I trust her to do all this stuff without me watching, and if she doesn't, I get her at the end to message me on WhatsApp and send me a summary of what she did. And the ones that she wasn't able to reconcile, I will then see, and then I will improve the rules or the skill to make sure she can do it. All right, here we go. Voucher proof Southport Bowls. Let me take a screenshot to see the current state. Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how she works. I think she can crawl the page, and then she needs to take a screenshot if she wants to actually like look at it. But she'll tell you every step she takes. So she's saying, okay, I can see that there's an invoice from that customer. She's going to mouse over it to view the full dollar amount to make sure that perfectly matches, the invoice matches the transaction. And then when she sees that it does, she's going to tick the tick to approve it. So obviously this is something I could quite easily do myself in this particular example. You could just go through and tick the things. But this demonstrates how she works and the kind of stuff she can do. So she's starting on the easy stuff. And these 21 transactions, I wouldn't be surprised if she could do, even only after a week of training, probably 18 or 19 of these. There are some in here, like this one here, that Anthropic one. She crashed yesterday, and I was thinking maybe I've run out of tokens because I was sort of struggling to understand how all the tokens and stuff work. So I topped up and paid $11 to Anthropic. Turns out it wasn't that. I wasn't over the tokens. But anyway, that transaction in there, I don't have a bill for. I just spent the money to keep this thing going, and she's not going to know what that is. I haven't trained her on how to handle that because I don't want her just handling random things. But there are purchases that she can handle that aren't put in as bills. There are things where I've trained her to say, okay, if you see a fuel receipt and it looks like it's from a fuel station and it looks like it's for fuel and it's under $100 or whatever the guidelines are, then you can just put that to fuel straight away. You don't have to ask me for permission or have a specific rule for that. So you don't need a specific rule for every single instance. You can tell it whatever you want to tell it, whatever your level of delegation is that you're comfortable with. Again, like an employee. So yeah, she's moving through these transactions. I mean, she's done those Square ones. They're another example where it is allocated to an account. That's money that Square transfers to us. I allocate it to a holding account. At the end of the week, I do a bill for the cafes and reconcile all that shit. So she's gone through all of those. I mean, there's only, how many left are there? There's only 6 left. The most complicated one is going to be those Woolworths ones. And I might pause the video. I mean, this is going to be a long video, but I might just pause it. And then when she attacks one of these Woolworths ones, we'll see how she goes. Okay, this is a really fun one. So it is noticed that we have a payment here from Oasis, right? So in this example, I have it trained with its own skill to look at my email and see if it can find a transaction for that dollar amount, because this particular customer pays bills, a bunch of them at a time for a specific dollar amount, and then it would send us an email with a remittance for those bills. I'm going to guess in this example, because they paid yesterday, they probably haven't emailed us yet. But what she does do, and if it doesn't work today, she'll just do it again tomorrow and the next day, and eventually when she does it, she'll notice, or eventually when she processes emails, she'll notice that email come through, and she'll know that that's, she'll be able to do the skill in full. At the moment, I'm going to guess they haven't emailed us. Let's just have a look. But she is going in here. She's searching the email for, you can see that there, for the dollar amount. And there's no email there. So as I thought, the email is not there. She might actually even go through and change the way she's doing the search, because I'm pretty sure I trained her to put a $ in and to put a comma in and to try all 3 different searches for the dollar amount. Yeah, so this is what she's doing now. So have a look. No, you can see it over on the right. No results for 12/15/61. Let me try the second variation with a $ and a comma. Okay. So you can, again, train her to do whatever you want. She's not going to find anything here because the customer hasn't emailed us yet, but she'll do this tomorrow or on Monday, and then she'll find that transaction. In this example here, she's going to realize we don't have an email. She's going to skip this customer or skip this transaction and get onto another transaction. So that's another way you can handle these things. Every customer has a different requirement, and that's why these accounting systems, they don't run by themselves. You need a bookkeeper to do this stuff, or now you need an AI. By the way, more detail on the website, dannorris.me. I've got lots of articles up there about stuff I'm working on. I've just written this one about this process. There's more detail on there, including some of the downsides, some of the specific rules I've created, how I've gone about it, all that kind of stuff. I also send a weekly email So if you want to jump on there, you'll get an email every Friday or Saturday or something when I get around to updating everyone on what I've been working on and some of this stuff. The other thing I was going to say is I'm on the $200 a month. I think it's the max plan on Claude. I haven't hit the limit yet. Oh, wow. She's even searching for the customer and remittance. I don't think I've told her to do that. Let me have a look. No results. Let me try third variation. No results. Let me try searching for Oasis. I'm pretty sure she's doing this under her own agency. This is when you get a little freaked out about what's going on because this is not like any computer program I've ever used, that's for sure. Regardless, the cost. So I'm paying $200 a month for Claude, which, if it's a piece of software, that's a lot. I don't think I've ever paid that much for a piece of software for my own business. But, I mean, that's only 4 or 5 hours work over a month for an employee. Less, probably, once you consider all employee costs. So it's basically nothing. And I haven't hit the limit yet. I don't fully understand the limit on how these tokens work and whatnot, or how generous they're being at the moment. But the Claude Max plan, I've heard, is quite generous. The Pro one, which is $30 a month, I maxed out in like one day. It was not going to work. So if you're going to have a crack at this, you're going to be paying at least $200 a month. But I mean, you got to keep in mind, this is one skill. This could be doing anything you can do on your computer that you can sort of explain. So I mean, it's pretty hard to see how this doesn't pay for itself a million times over at $200 a month. All right. Now let's have a look. Okay, so she's found some remittance, but it's for the wrong amount. It'd be interesting to see how long she spends on this. Let me go back and check the most recent one. We'll try a broader. So she's not given up, which I suppose is good. And again, I've only just started training this in the last week, so I could be happy with this level of doggedness from Rosie, or I could just say, okay, if you spend, if you do more than 3 searches, wrap it up. Let's move on to the next transaction. Or if I was sitting here watching it, I could just tell her. I'll just say, they obviously have an email. Let's move. So it's hard to type and talk at the same time, I found. All right, they obviously haven't emailed us yet. Let's move on. Look, I'm trying not to make the habit of actually talking to her while she's working, because I want this to be fully automated. My setup is I've got this Mac at work next to me, and I work on a Windows computer because there's other stuff I do in MyOb, and MyOb only runs on Windows. And the computer at work is Windows. It's got a big screen. I don't like Windows, but I'm happy to work on it. So that's my setup. Ideally, I don't want to interrupt her. I just want her to do her thing. But in this case, I'll interrupt it for the sake of the video. She would have eventually figured out that they hadn't emailed us yet. And when I discover stuff like that, I then have the option to adjust the skill. So at the end of the session, or even now, I could just be like, you know what, when you're searching for a customer's remittance, if you don't find it after searching the numbers, at that point, they just haven't emailed us yet. Let's move on. Please update the skill to reflect this, and then next time we'll know. So then she goes and updates the skill, and next time it won't happen. So you're constantly building this thing. Like this, my week this week was probably spent, I spent probably 12 hours a day at my computer this week, every day, maybe more. I mean, I've sort of had this with me the entire week. I don't know how many hours, maybe 30 hours spent engaging with her, adjusting the skills, giving her more skills, all this kind of stuff. So it's a constant ongoing thing. But I mean, she can do all of this after 1 week, which is, I don't know, I think it's pretty fucking crazy. Anyway, Woolworths. So she's seen a Woolworths order. Another tricky one. The way Woolworths manage their deliveries and their orders is not good. It's very complicated even for a person to do. She's gone in, she's seen they've sent us an invoice. She's now logged into Woolworths and she's looking through the history of orders with Woolworths. I've trained her that even if the number on the Woolworth My Orders page doesn't exactly match the invoice, she still has to look at the bill, because Woolworths change what they send you sometimes. They don't update the website, but they do update the bill. So I've trained her to find recent orders, and if none of them match perfectly, look at the bill and see if the bill matches perfectly. If the PDF matches perfectly, then you know it's for that transaction. Then you can create the bill in MyOb, and then you can reconcile it. So this is not super basic shit. Like this is, if you had someone doing this work, I had this written down in a process that was pages and pages long for the bookkeeping previous to this. It's not like the most basic admin work. Let's have a look at what she's doing here. So All right, so she's found both orders, $142.06, $142. By scrolling down. Okay, so she scrolled through orders that weren't matches, and then she's found the two that are matches, and they've exactly matched the amounts. So she's downloading them to have a look at them. She's getting out of them the invoice number, the total, and now comes GST. So this is the other tricky thing with the way Australia manages GST is, I don't know how other countries do it, but this is just the dumbest shit. Some things have GST and some don't. It's so dumb. Like some syrups have GST, some syrups don't have GST. You have the naughty syrups which have the sugar in it. They do have GST, but then you have the non-naughty syrups, which are, I don't know, sugar-free syrups. They don't have GST because they're not naughty and the government deems you don't have to pay. It's insane. At uni, I did a whole subject on GST. It was like 6 months long. Anyway, I've just told her, whenever we buy food, it's always for the cafe. When you get an invoice, it will tell you how much GST is on that invoice, but the GST will not be for the entire amount on the invoice. And Woolworths or lots of other suppliers won't itemize each item to tell you how much the GST is on each item. If you look at that invoice there, you can see it. It will put an asterisk there for items that have GST. Or actually, well, maybe it's for items that don't have GST. Let's have a look. Anyway, it identifies, there you go, GST applicable. So, okay, there you go. You play GST on Band-Aids. I mean, who the fuck thought of this shit? Anyway, so it says the total GST amount. So I've trained her to look at how much GST we're paying, multiply that by a calculation to work out the gross amount paid to generate that much GST, put that line into MyOb as food costs for the cafe GST inclusive, and then minus the entire invoice amount from that amount, and that remaining amount is the amount we've spent on food that does not have GST included, and that goes onto its own line. And this is, so in this example, she's not itemizing every single product. I do itemize every single product if it's an inventory item that we sell, and she's also capable of doing that. But for these invoices that come in every day, we put them all to the one account of food costs for the cafe, and we just have to itemize the GST. We have to set the due date so we know when to pay it, and we have to set the invoice number so we know how to track it. And she's going ahead and doing all of that, all as part of the MyOb reconciliation skill. Let's have a look where she's up to. So, supplier. So she's going through, she's creating the bill in MyOb. Let's go back to MyOb and have a look. All right. So you can see this. She's brought the supplier invoice number across from Woolworths. She's put in the customer of Woolworths. She's putting in the total for the GST free items, and then she'll put in the total for the GST items. And you can watch her working. You can look at the invoice, make sure she's doing it right. There's some checks in here. The invoice is good because you can basically do it all, and at the end say, does that match the actual invoice? And if it doesn't, then something has happened that's gone wrong. But I've done a bunch of these Woolworths ones. She smashes them, no problem. Right. I mean, I'm blown away by this stuff. I remember probably halfway through last year, I started playing around with vibe coding and using Replit and a couple of other AIs to write code. At the time, it felt incredibly clunky and buggy, and it was frustrating because it was so close. It was so close to being able to build, to basically enable someone like me who doesn't know how to write code with the skills to build software. By the end of the year, or by the very start of this year, it flipped completely on its head, and it went from being frustrating and annoying to it now builds software that works virtually every time. It's amazing. The code it writes is amazing. All the best developers in the world now are saying, I don't need to write code anymore. That's how good it's gotten. It was not working up until about October last year, and I had a break at Christmas. I was keeping my eye on it. By January, it was knocking coding out of the park. And so what I can see this do now is way ahead of where that was in October last year. This is like almost 90% there in terms of just completely replacing knowledge work. And, that's equal parts scary and exciting, but it is what it is. I suggest people get on board now. Otherwise, it's going to be way too late. Anyway. Oh, I want to wrap on this. There are some downsides, difficulties with this. I won't go into all of them in the video. Lots of things about this that are kind of annoying and clunky. It's a little bit slow. It's buggy. It's beta software. Other stuff. I've done as best as I can on my blog, dannorris.me, to go through all of those things so you know what you're getting yourself into if you decide to have a play around with this tool. All right. Cheers, guys. I hope that was useful.